Okay, good afternoon. We're getting ourselves all settled in here to an in-person meeting, so we welcome you to Senate Government Affairs. And will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Arnshaw.
Here.
Senator Gokachia.
Here.
Senator Neal.
Here.
Senator Hansen.
Here.
Chair Don Daraloop.
Here, and thank you very much. And we have all members present. And first, before we start, I think everybody knows the housekeeping rules, so they will all be the same. We're in person, but if you're on Zoom, same things apply. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and please join us in the committee room if you have a reservation. So other than that, we will open the hearing today. We're going to hear two bills. We're going to hear Assembly Bill 48 and Assembly Bill 70. So I'll open the hearing on Assembly Bill 48, and it authorizes certain retired public officers and employees to reinstate insurance under the Public Employees Benefits Program. Will the bill presenters please proceed when ready? Ms. Rich with PEB.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I am Laura Rich, Executive Officer of the Public Employees Benefits Program. To start off, I would like to provide just a little bit of background and the reasons that led up to the need for this bill. Prior to November 30th of 2008, local government retirees were eligible to join the Public Employees Benefits Program regardless of whether or not their former employer participated and paid into the program. However, Senate Bill 544 of the 2007 legislative session amended PEB's eligibility provisions by disallowing the retirees of local governments to join PEB if that local government that had employed the retiree did not participate in the program. So NAC 287.095 defines who is eligible to participate in PEB and incorporates those members who were grandfathered into the program on November 30th of 2008. We refer to this group as non-state employers. Currently, PEB has eight active non-state local government employees. So those are those active non-state employees, and a little over 5,900 non-state retirees, which are primarily those the non-state population that was grandfathered into the plan on November 30th of 2008. As of 2011, PEB requires, with some exceptions, Medicare-eligible retirees to participate on the Medicare exchange by enrolling in a plan directly through VIA Benefits. This is who PEB contracts with for their Medicaid exchange product. Retirees enrolled through VIA Benefits receive a years of service subsidy, which is provided in the form of a monthly health reimbursement account contribution. So retirees may be eligible as of today for up to $260 a month, which can be used to be reimbursed for eligible medical expenses and Medicare plan or dental plan premiums as well. So if a retiree fails to enroll in a plan through VIA Benefits or disenrolls from a plan through VIA Benefits, they are terminated from the program. So this leads us to the non-state retiree disenrollment problem and the problem we are trying to fix with this bill. So NRS 287-0475 addresses the reinstatement of insurance by a retired public officer, employee, or surviving spouse. The statute, as it currently reads, allows retirees from a participating state agency or local government to reinstate coverage if they have no more than one period not covered under the program. So this essentially allows retirees from the state and participating local governments, so those 8 non-state employees, one opportunity to return to the program as late enrollees during an open enrollment period should they disenroll. It does not, however, provide the same opportunity to non-state retirees since they do not fall under a participating local government agency. Since 2011, numerous state and non-state Medicare exchange retirees have been affected by this rule, and many non-state retirees have permanently lost their benefits. Retirees enrolled through VIA benefits have the opportunity every year to change plans during open enrollment. And it's usually during this period that retirees mistakenly enroll directly through the carrier instead of through VIA benefits, which results in an agent of record change. Once the agent of record is altered, the retiree is no longer covered in a medical plan through VIA benefits. In other cases, Medicare plans are discontinued and retirees are required to choose a new plan. In some cases, carriers are authorized to crosswalk members on a discontinued plan to a comparable plan should the member not actively choose one. However, in some cases, there's no comparable plan available and the member is required to actively select and enroll in a new option. If the retiree fails to actively choose another plan, then they are disenrolled. So in these cases that I just described, retirees are no longer considered enrolled in a medical plan through VIA benefits and are subsequently disenrolled from the program and terminated by PEB because the statute requires participation in a plan. It's not until they start receiving termination notices from PEB that they begin to realize the consequences of their actions. Because PEB anticipates this every year, we include language in all of our documents stressing the importance of making any plan changes through VIA benefits. And so we put this in the retiree guides and any resources, retiree resources that we provide, and then also trainings. We also make sure to send reminder notices prior to each Medicare open enrollment period, and have also engaged in very aggressive communications to those who have been identified as participating in a plan which is set to expire, so they've got to take some kind of action. Unfortunately, there's always retirees who disenroll and end up losing their HRA subsidy. State retirees have the ability to mitigate the damage by using their one-time opportunity allowed in statute to reinstate during that PEB open enrollment period. But non-state retirees lose their ability to participate in the program and lose their HRA subsidies permanently. There is no way to reinstate them. Based on enrollment data, PEB estimates that over 1,100 non-state retirees have disenrolled from the plan in this manner and have lost their HRA subsidies since 2011. PEB believes it is reasonable to provide non-state retirees the same opportunity that state retirees are offered to reinstate their Medicare exchange plan. This change does not have a budgetary impact to PEB or the state, since HRA subsidies are funded by the local governments. Had these retirees not disenrolled, the local governments would have been required to provide funding regardless. Now, I just also want to add that while there is no impact to the state or to PEB, this would impact the local government where those retirees came from. So if, for example, the Clark County School District has a large number of retirees who used to participate on their plan and made this mistake, they would be allowed to come back, have that one-time opportunity to come back. And so Clark County School District would then have to start picking up the tab for those HRA benefits for their retirees. That being said, if they hadn't made that mistake to begin with, Clark County School District, and I'm just saying, using Clark County School District as an example, there's other non-state agencies that have retirees. There's a list of them. So this is just an example, but they would have been paying that anyway. So this is just allowing those retirees to reinstate their benefits based on a mistake that they made. that they because of the way the statute is written, they could not walk back. So with that, I will stop there and give the committee an opportunity to ask questions or any other information that is necessary. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Questions? Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm just trying to get it clear in my mind. It seemed like Ellen Cuvisto brought the bill, and I thought it was AB 327. Was that the 7 or 9 sessions someplace? And I thought at that time they had the opportunity to go back into PEB at that point. So you're saying if they chose not to do it at that point, pre-08, then now this is going to give them another bite at the apple? Is that correct? Is that kind of where we're at?
Thank you for the question, Laura Rich. For the record, no, it is. So these are retirees who already opted to come back. So they've been grandfathered in already.
Okay.
This would not be opening the floodgates to new retirees. This is the same bucket that was opened in 2008. And that would, it's just those retirees who were part of PEB made a mistake, were terminated off the program, and had lost their benefits as a result.
If I may, Madam Chair, follow up. And when you say made a mistake, you mean they dropped the program and went, say, to Medicare? And this allows them to come back and pick this up as a supplemental?
Laura Rich, for the record, so this is only relating to Medicare retirees. So all of the retirees that this affects fall into the Medicare bucket. So these are folks that were already on the Medicare exchange as Medicare retirees. What they did was, let's say that during the Medicare open enrollment period, they switched plans. And instead of switching plans through Via Benefit and staying in that marketplace, what they did is maybe they went to a health fair or a retiree fair of some sort. And let's say that, there was an AARP representative that said, hey, there's this other plan that could be more beneficial to you, enroll directly through us. And so when those retirees enroll directly through the carrier, then what ends up happening is they are disenrolled from Via Benefits and PEB. And so that is what I'm referring to as a disenrollment, is that they were on a Medicare plan. They went to a different Medicare plan directly through the carrier instead of through the PEB program.
All right, it's getting a little clearer. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I kind of want to piggyback on what Senator Gocochea was talking about, because what's not clear is why they lapse, right? So it can't be to no fault of their own. There's a reason why it lapsed. And I guess the question that I have is, well, that's the one question I have, and then I have a second one, is, are you saying we should just re-enroll them, no fault of their own, and bring them back in? Because what you said in your testimony was that there were 1,100 who have been disenrolled since 2011. We're now in 2021. So there have to be a series of events or series of actions that were either taken by this is the non-state retiree on why they did not continue their plan. So can you at least put some of those actual incidences in the record on why they failed to continue their insurance? And then I have a second question.
So Laura Rich, for the record, the example that I just provided is exactly, it's really the prime example of what happens. There's a retiree, they enroll through the Medicare exchange through Via Benefits, and then they go to a health fair or some kind of retiree event, and the carrier directly, so whether it's AARP or let's say it's Hometown Health or any of these Medicare carriers, they enroll directly through that carrier. And so when they do that, it is in the insurance world, it's called a record of agent, an agent of record change. And so they're no longer, they are still on a Medicare plan, but they enroll directly through the carrier away from the PEB-sponsored Medicare exchange. And so Via Benefits then tells PEB, this person is not participating in our program. And so we then end up terminating them from the program. So the person still had Medicare. They just didn't know that they were supposed to enroll, and that plan may have been available through the Medicare exchange, but instead of enrolling in that plan through the Medicare exchange, they went directly to the carrier.
And then.
Does that make sense?
It does, but it sounds like it's an education issue. And you know, the thing that was going through my mind was, okay, if we've known about this since roughly 2007, and we grandfathered folks in, and then we have this flare up that happened in 2011, this was an education moment, right, for these retirees, either in a mailer or, hey, don't sign up for random plans because you're going to cancel your stuff, right? So that's what popped into my mind, but that's not even my real question.
Well, and I will address that. It's definitely an education issue. You heard me say that we at PEB try very, very hard to drill this into our Medicare retirees because it's so important. It still happens. It happens every single year. I will give you an example of a time where, again, we're talking about retirees, and these retirees, a lot of them are aging, well into their 80s, 90s, right? And so I'll give you an example. Prior to being the executive officer, I was the operations officer, and so I would say at least a couple times a week, I would have an exception request. Please, please, please. It wasn't my fault. I didn't know. And because it's in statute, we can't make that exception. One example was it was an elderly woman who falls into this non-state retiree category of folks that were grandfathered in. And she was no longer able to handle her own finances and really her own insurance. And so she had family handling this. And I'll tell you, her family they were attorneys. And so they didn't know when they changed her plan. They had no idea that what the consequences were to this change. And so, they fought tooth and nail on this because it had long-lasting, permanent consequences. But because it's in statute, there was no way that we could make an exception. So it's not always the retiree, and it's not always education. You have to remember that we're dealing with folks that are potentially aging into a place to where they're not necessarily handling their own enrollments, and they're not necessarily, aware of the family is not aware of the consequences and are just picking up the pieces. So this is where this situation is very helpful. Not to say that, state retirees do the same thing. They just have one shot to come back. They have that one period in statute that allows them the one-time mess up, if you want to call it that.
So, Madam Chair, just one more question. So now it gets to my question, because the cost, because you mentioned the tab, and it's a real tab, for the local governments, because in the bill, you have county, school district, municipal corporation, political subdivision, public corp, or other local government agency of the state who is participating. And so I really want to get an understanding of the cost of this, because you drew us all the way back to 2011. You didn't discuss what's the retroactivity period on the medical expenses that's being walked back, right? Is it just the 1 month prior medical expenses that if they get back on with the local government, are they just going to pick up the prior month expenses? Are they going to pick up the year's prior expenses? What are the medical debts that may come into play? Because typically you could have a medical debt, right? And you have a bill, but there's a window of time where you can submit it to, and if you can prove that you have insurance to cover that service that you went in for. And so because this is an aging population, I think we need to break that out a little bit about what's the walk back period and what's the time frame, and are you capping the medical expenses? I guess that would be for the state retirees, and I guess since you're trying to equalize them, it would be probably helpful to say, well, what the state retirees get when their enrollment period one time get a chance to get back in moment happens. Does that make sense? Because I know somebody's talking to you and you're like looking into you're like, hey, Sarah, stop
No,
talking to me.
I have children that I had to tell that I'm actually, I'm on a real Zoom meeting and engaging in a Zoom meeting. No, so yes, it does make sense, Laura Rich, for the record. It does make sense. And let me just clarify this. We're talking about Medicare exchange folks. And so there are no medical expenses. This is all Medicare liability, not the state liability. So there's not any medical expenses here. The expense that we're talking about is the Hra Contribution Benefit, and that today is up to $260 a month per retiree if they are to max it out. So it depends on their years of service. So that's $260. It tops out at $260 today, and depending on, our PEB budget hasn't closed, but it will. In our budget, that lowers it down to $220 in the next biennium. So that is the expense that we're looking at, is that $220 a month for the retiree if they were to max out that benefit. The other thing that we're looking at is, again, these folks, there's about 1,100 of them. They have since dropped off of our plan. So we know that 1,100 approximately dropped off our plan, but we don't know what has happened to them since then. So there's a high likelihood that a very small percentage of them would come back to the plan. There's probably many of them who have, again, we're talking about an aging population, and so there's a good chance that many of them have passed away. There's a chance that many of them won't use their one-time opportunity to come back. The impact is really dependent on the amount of retirees that the group would have, so that local government entity would have. I do have a list. I can provide it to the committee. We went through and looked at what the potential, if every single retiree came back, what the potential impact would be to that specific group and or that specific local government. Again, it's worst case scenario. It is highly unlikely that even 50% of them would come back at this point. So that's really the fiscal impact of that, and I'm happy to provide it to the committee just so there's you're able to see the list and kind of go through and see what the impact is to the worst case scenario impact is to each of these local governments. But I think that generally this is more of a moving forward, because what ends up happening is these non-state retirees, they usually figure it out pretty quickly when we send them termination notices, and then they call PEB and they plead and beg, can I come back? Can I come back? I made a mistake. And at that point, we are unable to provide them that opportunity because of the way it's written in statute today, and we can't make an exception to that. So that's really where I think we're going to catch the most members is moving forward. However, yes, there is this would be retroactive as well, and catching those people that do want to come back and giving them that one-time opportunity to come back.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you, I have a follow-up, but I know other people want to ask questions.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, other questions from the committee? Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief. I'm just not sure I understand. It says did not have more than one period during which the retired public employee was not covered by insurance under the program, but it doesn't give you a time frame for that program. Does that mean you could have withdrawn in 2011 and now asked to come back? Because that's only one period.
For the record, Laura Rich, you are correct. That is, it does provide a one-time opportunity for retirees to return to the program after one period of not being a part of it. And we call those the late retirees.
All right, so that means is if you bailed out, you got one chance to come back. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Other questions from the committee? So, I know this is really a hard bill, and it's a really hard process to understand. So, as a teacher, when I retired, as teachers generally, we have to get another job to qualify for Medicare, or you don't have insurance at all. So, would teachers fall into this?
Laura Rich, for the record, yes. So if they were a part of that grandfathered in group, yes, they would fall into that group. And I have the list in front of me, and I can tell you Churchill County School District, Carson City School District, there's about 15 retirees in Carson City School District that were dropped off, that were terminated, 20 in Churchill County. Let me see, Clark County School District has 391. So there's some teachers that fall into that category, but you have to have been a part of that group that was grandfathered in 2008.
And also, with that being said, so if you know there are 15 people, for example, in Carson City, have those 15 people had a letter or a phone call or something to alert them to this? Or is it on the onus of the person to just know that they need to do this? How are they being notified?
For the record, Laura Rich, we can actively reach out to PEB, can actively reach out to these members or not. So, this is something that once the bill passes, if the bill passes, then we would look at it and find out, do we have the ability to reach out to these members, which I believe we do. So we can either actively engage these members and let them know that this is now available. We can work with the advocacy groups, for example, Retired Public Employees of Nevada, RPEN. I know that they have been very supportive of this bill. They contact me very frequently with this issue. And so there are ways to engage this group and notify this group to let them know that they would have this opportunity should the bill pass.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure there are more questions, and I see a way to tell your children now when they want something, just tell them you're on a Zoom call. Additional questions? Senator Neal, please.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one more question about, because you said it's based on their time of service, right? And so they were grandfathered in 2008, they lapsed in 2011. But how are we calculating I guess the length of service? Is the length of service up to 2008 or up to 2011 that they worked? And then the second part to that is, do you use any actuaries around this at all?
So Laura Rich, for the record, the first part of your question is the answer is PERS determines years of service. So PEB coordinates with PERS, Public Employees Retirement System, to get years of service information. So in this situation, PERS would then provide, and we have this already in the system for these folks already. This is information that we received when they retired, and so that information is already there, but that was determined by PERS at the time. So PERS would tell us they've got 15 years or 20 years of service, and that is the information that PEB uses to determine years of service when a person retires. In this situation, that years of service determination was made way back in the day. It's in our system. We know how many years of service these folks have, and so that is what would be determined to figure out what that HRA benefit would be. And the other question, I'm sorry, I lost it. Can you repeat the second part of your question, please?
It was
whether
whether or not you guys use like an actuary, or I guess that would be on the PERS side.
So Laura Rich, for the record, the actuary, because this is a Medicare plan, we do not use the actuaries for that determination because PEB is not paying medical claims. Medicare is paying those claims. So PEB is really the only benefit that retirees are receiving in this situation is the HRA benefit, that contribution from the employer. The Medicare is picking up the claims, and so claims are irrelevant to us to PEB under these circumstances. Does that make sense?
It does, but it really made me ask the question, because when I was asking you about the cost and whether or not medical debt and medical claims would apply, does Medicare, is there any kind of federal, I guess, conflict or preemption there where Medicare is saying, you're now giving me a claim, because you did say it's retroactive, and then so they could potentially get a medical claim that could be a year old. And so what is Medicare then saying to this non-state retiree in terms of, I'm going to pay this, right? Like, yeah, the state said you could get back in the game and get covered, but that doesn't mean that federal government Medicare plan, want to walk backwards a year on your medical expenses.
So Laura Rich, for the record, these folks have very likely been on a Medicare plan the entire time. It is just where they enrolled in that Medicare plan. And so the federal government is agnostic to the fact of, where they are enrolled, in which Medicare plan and how they enrolled in it. A Medicare plan is a Medicare plan to them. For PEB purposes, that retiree has to enroll in a Medicare plan through our vendor in order for it to be considered participating in our program. And so that is the only way that PEB is able to provide an HRA contribution to these folks who are on that Medicare exchange. So these retirees have most likely continued their Medicare plans just off the exchange or off the PEB Medicare exchange. And the only thing that they lost is that $260 a month benefit that PEB is providing them. So they continued their Medicare plan, but PEB and through their employer has not been providing them that $260 a month benefit that they were eligible for.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? Okay, well, that was a lot of information. So thank you very much, Ms. Rich. We really appreciate your expertise. And with that, I believe we will go to support.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 48, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 338, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 338, please press star 6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
This is Priscilla Maloney, Priscilla Maloney, representing the AFSCME Retiree Chapter of Local 4041. We are in support of this bill. We thank the agency for closing what is a loophole for some of our public retirees. To sort of circle back to Senator Neal's question, the bottom line is this is an existing option already in state statute for the state retirees. What this does is give the same safety net for the local governments. And just for the committee's benefit, a few years ago, the AFSCME retirees amended our Constitution pursuant to agreement with our international, and we now accept as members local government retirees as well. So this will affect some of our members as well. And the problem is that, again, people don't realize during open enrollment time every year, and somebody can come along and say, hey, I can get you a much better deal than you're getting from PEB. You go by this policy. And it turns out not to be such a great deal. And they lose, as Ms. Rich just stated, they lose the contribution from their former employers through the state of Nevada's PEB Medicare exchange. They lose that $260, and they don't realize they're doing it. So prior to this time, when the agency hadn't put through this bill, there was no relief for the person in that situation in local government as a retired worker. So that, Senator Neal, is just to direct, Madam Chair, to address Senator Neal directly. That is the problem that's trying to be solved here, and we are in full support of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 084. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 084. Please press star 6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
Good afternoon, Senator Dondero Loop and members of the committee. My name is Tom, T-O-M, Wellman, W-E-L-L-M-A-N, and I'm a resident of Assembly Senate District 1. I successfully retired from the Clark County School District and currently serving as president of the NSEA Retired Program. I'm here in favor of Assembly Bill number 48. One of the major expenses that our members face in retirement is the continuing escalating cost of health care. Any measures that can be put in place to help curb this runaway train is greatly appreciated. This bill would would not directly impact me, but would allow our members that qualify for this program to save precious healthcare dollars each year and every month by allowing them access to the exchange. I urge you to support this bill and help our senior citizens across the state gain access to affordable health care. However, please keep in mind that Nevada is a WEP and GPO state, and many of our retired members that would benefit from this program will not have access because they will not and do not qualify for Social Security or Medicare. Please consider as you move forward that active educators and support professionals need to have access to quality, affordable health care when they retire. Working together, you can help us solve this problem for employees that handle these life-changing assignments on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wellman. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 832. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 832, please press *6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Dondero Loop, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and Senators Hansen, Gokachia, and Neal. My name for the record is Terry Laird, L-A-I-R-D. I'm the Executive Director at the Retired Public Employees of Nevada, RPEN, established in 1976 to protect the pension and benefits earned by all public employees. We are a nonprofit organization with nearly 8,000 dues-paying members. We are testifying today in support of AB 48 because it does create parity between the state and non-state Medicare participants in the Medicare exchange at PEB. Since 2011, RPEN has received many panicked phone calls from those non-state members of ours and we've taken their concerns on to PEB in their behalf. In fact, I do believe that the case scenario that Laura Rich referenced early on in her testimony was in fact an RPEN member whose family reached out to us to assist them in this issue. PEB and RPEN, through our quarterly newsletter to all our members, always reminds Medicare participants of this risk during open enrollment. But unfortunately, as Priscilla Maloney referenced, many retirees living on a fixed income are always looking for ways to save money and therefore are more susceptible to these solicitations.
Caller with the last three digits of 832, we seem to have lost you. Please try to press *6 again to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Thank you. Please continue.
All right, sorry about that. I'll just pick up real quick here. PEB and RPEN, through our quarterly newsletter to all our members, always reminds Medicare participants about this risk during open enrollment. But unfortunately, many, as was referenced earlier in other public comment, many of them are living on fixed incomes and are always looking for ways to save money and therefore are more susceptible to the solicitations promising lower premiums. And unfortunately, many are not aware by selecting what may appear to be a better, more affordable offer are forfeiting their HRA and other benefits. And for these reasons, we are very hopeful that you'll be able to support AB 48. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 837, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello. Good afternoon, Senator Dondero Loop and committee members. This is Kent Ervin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance. We support AB 48. It does not affect our members who are state employees, but in solidarity with the non-state retirees, we support this extension of this benefit. However, we would like the bill better if instead of just adding this state benefit to non-state retirees, that it eliminated the once per lifetime reinstatement altogether. That was added by AB 76 in 2011, and we believe it's unnecessary and punitive to these retirees and really should just be removed for all state and non-state retirees. But of course, state hires after 2011 will have no health benefits at all when they retire due to other actions taken around that time. But we do support AB 48 as written because it fixes this problem with just the non-state retirees. Thank you.
Thank you, please. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 740. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dondero Loop and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Stephen. That's Steven Horner. That's Horner, and I am a resident of Assembly District 35, Senate District 9. I am the current Vice President of the Nevada State Education Association Retired and the Clark Retired Education Association. I am just going to say me too. We support this bill and hope you will too as well.
Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we will go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 48, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, Ms. Rich, do you have any closing comments? Do you want to introduce the children?
the joys of working from home. I just like to thank the committee, and as you heard, there's a lot of support for this bill. I know personally I have been approached by dozens and dozens and dozens of folks who have fallen into this category and are just begging and pleading, oh no, I made a mistake, I need to fix it. This bill allows them one chance to fix it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know there are lots of retirees out there that will as well. So we appreciate your time today, and with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 48. Thank you very much. I'll now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 70, and this measure revises provisions governing the deposit of child support payments collected by the Division of Welfare and Supported Services of the Department of Health and Human Services. And will the bill presenters go ahead when you're ready? Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Dondero Loop, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and members of the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, Jason Lewis from the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, Chief for the State Collection and Disbursement Unit. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. The State Collection and Disbursement Unit, known as SCADU, receives and processes all child support payments for the state of Nevada. Per federal regulations, the state agency must establish and operate a unit for the collection and disbursement of payments under support orders. SCADU has a payment processing system through our vendor to process child support payments. SCADU receives over $220 million per year in child support. Child support payments are received via electronic funds transfer, EFT, credit cards, cash, and SCADU receives approximately 22,000 mailed-in payments per month, averaging more than $10,000 per day. Due to the dollar amount, state law requires us to deposit all payments by the close of the next business day. Payments with accurate child support information and financial instrument information pass directly through the system without staff intervention. Payments lacking information are researched by staff, which could include contacting the individual or employer who sent the payment. This cannot always be done within the established statutory timeframe. Also, almost daily, payments cannot be properly identified because the payment was never meant for Nevada. Depositing these payments requires SCADU to issue a refund check back to the payer instead of returning the payment with an explanation letter. Assembly Bill 70 will allow Skidoo one additional business day to deposit identified payments, which will align with the federal requirements for disbursing payments to families. For unidentified payments, Assembly Bill 70 will allow a total of 5 business days to identify and deposit or return to the payer. This will expedite both the time for payments made in error to be returned timely and to get payments into the hands of the families it was intended for. Thank you, and at this time I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a question because I understand like the money is accumulating, but is the money accumulating from, because I know you guys subtract the welfare benefits from the child support that's received, right? Isn't that the setup? And then I'll do the next part of that question. So
I'm sorry, Jason Lewis for the record.
So I'm wondering if the accumulation of the dollars that you have in this account are coming from the subtraction that you guys are having from the welfare benefits. So it's my understanding that when a person gets child support and they're getting a welfare benefit, you subtract from the welfare benefit. You actually subtract, I think you subtract from the child support is one of them, but I want to know if that is playing into this at all. Because I know there's a reduction, you can't have both. Like it's proportional or
Jason
something.
Lewis for the record.
Jason, do you want me to take that question?
Yes, you can go ahead, take that.
Okay. Kathy Kaplan for the record. I'm the Chief of Child Support Enforcement for the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. And what Mr. Lewis has presented has nothing to do with the benefits of welfare recipients. What you're referring to is when somebody is on cash TANF benefits, they do assign their rights to child support, but that's all done separate from depositing the money that is intended for child support, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And so how do you guys, and then my second question, which is slightly different. So since you guys receive the payments, how do you coordinate with the DA to make sure that the payment has been made? Because I know that if a person fails to pay their child support, they can have a driver's license suspension. And so if you guys are documenting what's going into the account, how do you guys like kind of interact and coordinate there?
You want me to take that one, Jason?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Kathy Kaplan for the record. Thank you for the question. We have a system that is linked. It's a statewide system. The deposits coming in from the SDU side of things show on our accounting, and any of the DAs that have a contract with us can see those payments.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions? Senator Gokachia, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is kind of off, I think, a little bit, but I know during the height of the unemployment, there were unemployment checks or deductions made in unemployment checks, and in fact, child support was sent to, on behalf of, to the DAs or whatever, on the behalf of the child support, and yet they were fraudulent claims. And I know in my district alone, I had people reach out to me and say, I got $1,200 worth of child support paid and I hadn't filed for unemployment. How do you deal with that when you're talking about being able to identify the obligee? Did I make any sense, or I go too far around?
You want me to take that one, Jason, too?
Yes, go ahead.
Kathy Kaplan for the record. Thank you for the question. So we have been working with DETR to identify unemployment claims that are fraudulent. When we flag them and we catch them timely, we do refund that money to Dieter. As far as the collection for any fraudulent claims where somebody has been afforded a benefit to that, that's going to be on the Dieter side on how they plan on collecting that.
Thank you. So it was just good luck on those guys' part that somebody did file a fraudulent claim, because I know a number of constituents that have contacted me, and they did benefit from this because they had unemployment benefits paid, or child support payments paid for them out of a fraudulent unemployment claim, and so they didn't have to make the payments. And I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to true that up, because that's part of the bill.
Kathy Kaplan for the record. I don't know that it's part of AB 70. What Mr. Lewis is presenting is when they get a payment that they can't identify, they're asking for additional days to go ahead and research that payment to find out if it was truly meant for Nevada or it should be refunded back to the payor. The unemployment side of it, it is an electronic fund that comes in from Dieter directly to us, and it doesn't take anybody's intervention to process those payments.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I have just a clarifying question. So if you're going to take an additional 2 days, right? So it's not, is it 5 days? Is it 2 days? Like, what's the timeline there, first of all?
Jason Lewis for the record. So if we receive the payment and we are able to identify it, it is 2 days. Sometimes we receive payments, though, that there's not enough information to identify what family to send it to. That will allow us 5 days in order to contact the payor and clear up the situation so we can identify the proper family to send it to.
And do you have any idea or an estimate of what percentage of payments that come in that you don't know who they belong to? I mean, out of 100 payments, is it 10? Is it 50?
It's approximately 20%, could be a little more. We have to put into what we call research. Oh, excuse me, Jason Lewis for the record. Approximately 20% come in that are unidentified, and we put it into our research to follow up with.
So out of that 20%, then, are some of them actually Nevada people? I mean, people you just have to research to where it's going. I guess where I'm going with this, the only thing that I'm a little concerned about, and I totally understand what you're doing, but the only thing that I'm a little concerned about is if I'm on a really tight budget and I have child support payments and I put them in, and you don't cash that check, so to speak, I'm sort of living on borrowed time there for a little bit, and because I can't really balance the checkbook, right? So is that a problem, or do you not foresee that as being a problem?
Jason Lewis for the record. This will not affect families any differently than it does now. When we're unable to identify a payment, we still have to do the research and contact the person who sent it, who is either the employer or the non-custodial parent. From there, once we contact them, we can identify the proper child support case and send it through. So this will have no impact on the families whatsoever.
Okay, thank you very much. Additional questions? Okay, looks like we've answered all the committee questions. So with that being said, we'll go to support. Broadcasting, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Your public line is currently open and working, and you have no callers on the line at this time.
And that is for support. What about opposition?
You currently have no callers on the line in opposition at this time.
Neutral?
You currently have no callers neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Lewis or Ms. Kaplan, do you have any closing comments?
Jason Lewis for the record. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to present today. If you have any questions in the future, I am available to answer at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill, or Assembly Bill 70. And we will have one more thing to finish up, and that will be public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Your public line is currently open and working, but you have no callers at this time. Would you like to wait a couple minutes to see if we have anyone join?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Standing by. Chair, your public line is still open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, if we have no public comment, I will close the meeting. Thank you, members, for our first in-person meeting. We'll see you again. We're making decisions on Friday's meeting as bills are being processed, so stay tuned for that, and we are adjourned.